Hello and welcome to the West Asia Post. I am Rhythm Sharma, bringing you the biggest flashpoints from a region which never stays still. In Gaza, Hamas is holding on, despite intensifying military pressure from the US and Israel. On Israel's northern front, fresh Israeli strikes are raising tensions with Hezbollah. And in Yemen, Saudi Arabia and UAE are now backing rival forces. All this and more, but first, the headlines. Iran is on the brink. Protests are in its second week. Iranians have taken to the streets all across. The crackdown by the regime has only made confrontation bigger. The economy is in a mess. The Iranian currency has plunged to a record low. 1.5 million riyals equals $1. To make matters worse, Trump is not mincing any words. He has warned of US being locked and loaded, ready to intervene if violence against protesters continue. Maduro's capture from his fortified presidential palace has rattled Iran regime. Could Khamenei be the next? Watch our special report on a nation on the brink.
The first spark ignited on 28th December 2025. Not in a university, not at a political rally. In the beating commercial heart of Tehran, the Grand Bazaar. Traders closed shops and took to the streets over soaring inflation and the sharp devaluation of the local currency. The visuals on the ground are striking. Streets packed with young demonstrators, women at the front. People chanting for freedom and an end to corruption. Markets that should have been full of trade are instead full of protest banners. Smoke rising from burning tires as thousands call for dignity. Youth, long frustrated by a lack of opportunity and rising costs, pushed forward without fear. The regime's response has been lethal. Many killed, over 2,100 people arrested as security forces use force to quell the dissent. High-ranking officers, including a police commander in Iranians, known for crushing activists, killed in the chaos. The state has labeled the protesters rioters and foreign agents. Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei acknowledges the economic demands of protesters in Iran, but warns that there will be no quarter for rioters.
Let him run his own country if he can. In his own country, there are all kinds of incidents going on. The Islamic Republic was established with the blood of several 100,000 honorable people, and it will not back down in the face of those who engage in destruction, nor will it tolerate mercenaries serving foreign powers.
At 86, Khamenei is facing his ultimate test of survival, while President Pezeshkian accepts that the Iranian government is at fault. Khamenei urges firm action. Protesters are chanting slogans against the supreme leader, his posters burnt and statues destroyed.
What is abundantly clear to me is that the system at large in Iran, the political establishment, is at a dead end. And so without accommodation, without change in policy, but also in its position vis-a-vis protesters and perhaps the structure of governance in Iran, things are going to deteriorate.
The engine of this fury is an economy in total freefall. Following the June war with Israel and the return of snapback UN sanctions, the rial has collapsed to 1.5 million against the US dollar. Inflation has soared to 42%, while food prices have jumped a staggering 72%. The average monthly salary has shrunk to just $150, making basic survival impossible for the middle class.
A week ago, I bought a tray of eggs for 2,200,000 rials. Today, I bought one for 3,500,000. Prices of other goods like cooking oil and rice have gone up.
A liter of cooking oil, which used to be 790,000 rials, is now 1,350,000 rials. And as the government announced, prices for other goods will rise by 50% to 100%. As goods become more expensive, costs for all services will increase too. The price hikes will spread into other areas of people's lives.
From exile, the son of the deposed Shah, Reza Pahlavi, has seized the moment. The Iranian armed forces to defect and embrace the nation rather than firing on their own people.
This is a direct message addressed to Iran's armed and security forces, you who wear a military uniform to defend the Iranian nation and who are now facing a historic choice.
While his actual support on the ground is debated, pro-monarchy slogans are being heard in the streets of Qom and Shiraz for the first time in generations. For many, the Pahlavi name has become a rallying point for those who want a return to secular, modern Iran. U.S. President Donald Trump warns Washington could intervene if the crackdown worsens, drawing immediate comparisons to American military action in Venezuela.
We're watching it very closely. If they start killing people like they have in the past, I think they're going to get hit very hard by the United States.
Iran's military warns that Iran is now far more prepared and stronger to face any attacks, threatening a decisive response to any action. It considers a breach of sovereignty. Iran's armed forces have been placed at the highest level of readiness.
We are fully prepared for any situation. We don't want war, but we are ready for war. We are also ready for negotiations, but only negotiations that are based off mutual interests and respect.
Iran is now at a crossroads. The protests began with economic anger but have grown into a broader challenge to authority. Streets that were once quiet with routine are now filled with voices demanding change. How Tehran responds next will shape the country's future.
Tensions are flaring again on Israel's northern front. Hezbollah claims it has pulled its fighters back from the border and lost much of its arsenal during the war. But Israeli and American officials say the group is quietly rebuilding. Amid those warnings, Israel has launched fresh attacks on Lebanon, raising fears that a new round of confrontation may be looming. Here's our report.
A year after a ceasefire halted a deadly conflict between Israel and Hezbollah, the risk of war is back on the table. Lebanon had committed to disarming Hezbollah, a demand pushed by the United States and Israel after a year of fighting that killed thousands. Displaced more than 1 million people and devastated border communities. But that promise has proved hard to keep. Israel says Hezbollah is dragging its feet and trying to rebuild. It has responded with near-daily airstrikes, targeting what it calls Hezbollah and Hamas positions. Even as the ceasefire remains officially in place, Hezbollah insists it has withdrawn its fighters from the border with Israel and lost much of its arsenal during the war. But Israeli and American officials say the group remains active north of the Litani River and is quietly rearming. Diplomacy is continuing even as the strikes go on. This month, Israeli and Lebanese envoys held rare direct talks under a US-led ceasefire monitoring mechanism. Washington wants Hezbollah disarmed by the end of the year, but it is unclear whether Beirut can deliver. Lebanese Prime Minister Nawaf Salam says disarmament south of Litani is nearly complete. But moving too fast risks internal unrest. Hezbollah is not just an armed group. It is also a powerful political party with deep roots in Lebanon's Shiite community. The war has left Hezbollah weakened. It lost thousands of fighters and its longtime leader, Hassan Nasrallah, was killed by Israel. Iran, its main backer, has been hit hard, and the key supply route through Syria has collapsed. Hezbollah's leaders reject full disarmament, saying it would strip the group of its resistance role, and the danger remains real. The Israeli military launched strikes on Lebanon on January 5th, after warning it would hit what it called Hezbollah and Hamas targets in 4 villages, prompting families to flee once again. It was the first such warning issued by the Israeli military this year, as Israel continues to strike Lebanon. It is a reminder that this ceasefire may be holding, but it is fragile. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Deadly clashes have erupted in Aleppo between Syrian government forces and the Kurdish-led SDF, killing several people across the city. With talks to integrate the SDF into Syria's army halted, both sides are trading blame. The stakes are high. Failure here means more violence and could even pull Turkey into the conflict. We tell you more.
Aleppo has seen a pause in the fighting between the Syrian government forces and the Kurdish fighters. Syria's defense ministry has announced a ceasefire after 3 days of deadly clashes between government forces and Kurdish fighters in the northern city. Violence that has reportedly displaced more than 140,000 people. Aleppo has seen a pause in the fighting between the Syrian government forces and the Kurdish fighters. Syria's defense ministry has announced a ceasefire after 3 days of deadly clashes between government forces and Kurdish fighters in the northern city. Violence that has reportedly displaced more than 140,000 people. The truce took effect in the early hours of Friday in the flashpoint neighborhoods of Sheikh Maqsood, Ashrafia and Bani Zaid. Under the terms, armed groups were given a narrow window to withdraw, allowed to leave with light weapons and escorted towards northeastern Syria territory controlled by the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces. Syrian authorities say the move is aimed at stabilizing the city after days of intense shelling and drone strikes that turned residential areas into battle zones. But the ceasefire remains delicate. There has been no formal confirmation from the SDF that it has signed on to the deal, and it is unclear whether the pause can hold beyond the initial deadline. The United States has stepped in to shore up the truce. Washington's envoy to Syria, Tom Barak, has welcomed the ceasefire and said that the US is working with all sides to extend it and prevent a return to bloodshed. The human cost has been severe. Civilians on both sides of the front lines have been killed and dozens more wounded, with each camp accusing the other of striking populated areas and even medical infrastructure. The fighting is rooted in a deeper political deadlock. Damascus, now led by interim President Ahmad al-Sharaa, signed an agreement last year for the SDF to merge into the Syrian army by the end of 2025. But talks have stalled over how that integration would work and who would ultimately hold power. The issue is further complicated by regional dynamics. Several factions within Syria's new army have close ties with Turkey, a state that views the SDF as an extension of the PKK and has a long history of conflict with Kurdish groups, even as the SDF remains a key US partner against the Islamic State.
Turkey is making a calculated play to reset its place in the West security architecture. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan is calling for Turkey's return to the US-led F-35 stealth fighter program. Why is the sale of one American military hardware is causing so much heartburn and generating headlines? Our next story decodes why Turkey desperately needs these American fighter jets and why Israel is worried about it.
President Erdogan says Turkey's reintegration into the F-35 program is not just about jets. It's about strategy, alliances, and trust. In remarks to Bloomberg, Erdogan called Turkey's ejection from the program unjust, arguing that the aircraft had already been paid for. He asserts that its return would strengthen NATO's collective security. Turkey was removed from the F-35 program after it purchased Russian S-400 air defense systems. A decision that poisoned its ties with Washington and raised alarms across NATO. Now Erdogan is signaling a shift, even floating the possibility of returning the S-400s to Russia. A move unthinkable just a few years ago. This reset is being driven by a convergence of interests, from defense cooperation and energy security to regional conflicts. Ankara and Washington are finding new overlap, even as Turkey continues to walk a tightrope between NATO and Moscow. But the road back to the F-35 is far from clear. Israel has publicly voiced its reservations, warning that sensitive technology embedded in the jet, some of it Israeli, cannot be shared with Turkey. Some of it cannot be shared with Turkey. This introduces a new layer of complexity, tying the F-35 question directly to the Israeli security and Turkey's regional ambitions. According to reports, Israel claims it has a use of technology veto right that can shut the door on Turkey's bid to acquire F-35 stealth strike fighter jets from the United States. F-35 is one of the most frontline stealth aircraft in the world. The American fighter jet is used by at least 19 countries across the world. It has a proven track record in the battlefield. It was used recently by Israel in the 12-day war with Iran. The F-35 has a speed of 1,200 miles per hour, payload of 8,160 kilograms, and a range of 2,173 kilometers, and comes at a price of $80 million. A return to the F-35 would signal Turkey's strategic re-anchoring in the West, potentially reshaping power dynamics across West Asia, from the Black Sea to the Red Sea. But failure would reinforce a multipolar transactional Turkey, still balancing between Washington, Moscow, and regional powers. And regional power centers. The F-35, then, is more than a fighter jet. It is a test of trust, a measure of alignment, and a signal of where Turkey and the West see the future of West Asia's geopolitics headed.
Hamas is struggling for survival, not just as a militant force, but as a ruling power, struggling into shrinking pockets of Gaza, threatened with annihilation by the US and hunted by the Israeli troops on the ground. The group is still projecting defiance. Hamas is scrambling to reassemble in Gaza. Take a look.
With rifles still in hand and defiance very much intact, Hamas is signaling that it has no intention of disappearing from Gaza, even after 2 years of devastating war. Hemmed in by Israeli tanks, targeted by continued airstrikes, and threatened with total elimination under President Donald Trump's peace plan, the group is nevertheless quietly reasserting control over what remains of the Strip. According to reports, in the ruins of Gaza City, Hamas-backed civil servants are back at their desks, courts have resumed limited functioning, and taxes are being collected, even from families now living in tents after their homes were bombed. Armed Hamas fighters have shifted from the battlefield to street corner, enforcing order and reminding residents who wields the real power. This gradual return to governance comes as the second phase of the Trump peace plan remains stalled, while Hamas can no longer field reports, say that the group that launched the October 7th attack in 2023, it has retained enough weapons and enough control to deter any foreign force envisioned to take over Gaza. For many Palestinians left behind, Hamas rule feels both inescapable and increasingly harsh. Markets have moved into tents, basic commodities are tightly regulated, and fees and levies are being demanded even as livelihoods lie in ruins. Resentment is growing. Israel, meanwhile, insists that Gaza must be fully demilitarized before any withdrawal can be completed. Hamas says it may part with rockets, but not its guns, and certainly not its claim to authority. Amid all this, Israel continues to rain fire on the Strip. IDF has reportedly killed at least 4 Palestinians in 2 separate strikes in the Gaza Strip. Hours after the military said that it has hit the site of a failed militant rocket launch. As international plans for a post-Hamas Gaza struggle to take shape, the reality on the ground tells a harder story. Hamas may be wounded, but it is very much alive and still calling the shots in the shadows of war.
Once allies in the Yemen war, Saudi Arabia and UAE are now backing rival forces. Riyadh supports the internationally recognized government, while Abu Dhabi is behind a secessionist southern force that has seized key territory in Yemen. As the crisis intensifies, we explain why these countries entered the war, how their alliance broke, and why Yemen remains trapped in the conflict.
A major fault line is opening up in the Gulf, and it could redraw the balance of power across West Asia. Long simmering tensions between Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates have burst into the open, triggered by a sharp confrontation in Yemen, but rooted in a far deeper struggle for regional leadership. The immediate spark came when UAE-backed forces pushed out of Aden and took control of oil-rich areas long held by Saudi-aligned groups, prompting a fierce Saudi counterattack that has now threatened Emirati influence across Yemen altogether. But this is not just about Yemen. It is a breakdown between two allies who once moved in lockstep from Yemen to Libya, from the blockade of Qatar to the suppression of the Arab uprisings. The split has now turned openly political and ideological. Emirati and Saudi media are engaged in a bitter war of words, accusing each other of undermining Islam, backing extremism, and destabilizing the region. At the heart of this rift is Israel. The UAE's deep strategic alignment with Israel since the Abraham Accords, including security, intelligence, and political coordination, has increasingly clashed with Saudi Arabia's view of a region now shaken by Israel's military escalation across multiple fronts. All of this is unfolding at a moment of maximum uncertainty. Iran is under pressure at home. Violent protests have gripped the nation. The region is still reeling from the war in Gaza, and the role of the United States remains unclear, with Washington seen in the region as distracted, inconsistent, and unpredictable.
That's all we have for you in this episode of the West Asia Post. I am Rhythm Sharma. Keep watching WION World is One for major global updates.
YO1 Health Resort is unique, the only one of its kind. Experience the 4 paths of natural wellness: yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy. Each uniquely customized program improves the whole person to make every person whole. Come to YO1 Health Resort. Make your reservation at yo1.com.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World